what's wrong?
Ah, I made it back on. Okay, cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Applegate.
And my name is Mason.
And Mason thinks he's back, but he's going to go and sit on the floor and play on his electronic babysitter, the lovely Game Boy that we got him. So that's going to be Mason's electronic babysitter. I have no shame about that. So my name is Jennifer Applegate, and hello, Linda. Now listen, Linda. I'm part of this beautiful collective called the Magic of Psalm, and obviously you're watching this on the Magic of Psalm fan page, and we're a 501c3, so we are a oh my God, I just blanked on the word because I'm so excited about the topic. Because, you know, who wouldn't be excited? Hi, Cecilia. Who wouldn't be excited about talking about fierce ownership and also releasing shame? Nonprofit, yes, nonprofit organization. And so we're providing comprehensive sex education, and it seems to be unfolding into just life education as well. So this is just, it's a really exciting project and topic. And so I am going to get right into it and first talk about, fierce ownership. And so fierce ownership, and by the way, if you see me looking to the side, I'm going to say this, I take notes because otherwise I'm going to go off on a tangent, and hopefully one of the moderators would save me from myself, because then otherwise you guys will be hearing about how to build a rocket ship and like go through a Stargate. So anyways, yes, please visit our webpage as well to just see more about us, learn more about us and our mission. So fierce ownership, this is, it's a very, very dear topic. And fierce ownership, you know, it can look like a lot of things to a lot of people. You know, to some people, it might be strutting. Okay, it came back. So strutting your stuff. And hi, Kristen. Or just wearing bold colors and being sexy all the time. Some people might even think that fierce ownership is acting strong and appearing unbreakable and just being incessantly positive. And I do believe that actually those are phases of fierce ownership. I believe that things start, like we always start with like we learn something new, and then we like swing from one end of the pendulum to like the other end. Like the last topic I spoke about was affirmative consent and boundaries. And a lot of times when we learn boundaries, the first time we do is like we have no boundaries. So then we put up all these walls around us, and I'm just like, my boundaries are firm, and you're not crossing this wall. And there. And so it like starts at that extreme, and then and then it starts to be gradual. So there's nothing wrong with acting strong and appearing unbreakable, but those are I believe the beginning phases of ownership. And then really fierce ownership is something that is more palpable. It's something that you can feel. It's like an electricity that comes off of a person when, you know, it's less on the surface. And so like you'll know somebody who just like owns themselves on all levels when they walk into a room and they just ooze this confidence and they just ooze this ownership. You can tell they're so comfortable in their skin, and almost nothing would faze them. And a lot of times people that may not own who they are or just feel a little bit self-conscious might actually be intimidated by people who like own their shit. And fierce ownership is also owning all of those aspects of yourself that you don't know yet, that you don't love. Like it's full integration of every part of ourselves, because there's a lot of ourselves that we hide from the public because and hide from ourselves because we do believe that on some level it's going to make us unlovable. Like if I show, like to be honest, I can be a little bit of an asshole. I hope I can say that. But I can absolutely be. But there was like this part of me that was like, no, I have to be nice all the time. And just, I had this belief about myself, and it didn't really work out. So you know, like with the beginning phases of fierce ownership, I like to call like the beginning phase of anything the baby snake syndrome, where, you know, like a baby snake bites, and then it's like it releases so much venom. They're really, really dangerous because it doesn't know how to control you know, what's going out. And so a lot of times, even the beginning phases of fierce ownership is definitely being able to like integrate those parts of ourselves. And so, the whole, you know, speaking with ease and comfort, being direct and truthful, that's another thing of fierce ownership. And then this is the crazy thing about it too, is you can own parts of yourself and be like, yeah, I know me. And then there might be some other parts where you're completely lost and clueless, and that's okay. And that's why at the Magic of Shaman, what we do is very integrative and comprehensive, so that we keep it holistic and address the whole body, the whole person, your mind, your body, your soul, your sensuality, everything. We hit everything at every angle. That's why there's so many of us talented people combining all of our gifts and collaborating. And so definitely, if you want to see more of what we have to offer so we can get these courses out to you, please donate. I believe it's already pinned up at the top for our donate to support our cause. And we do have prizes for people who donate $45 or more. So besides air kisses and air hugs. So that's just like a brief overview of fierce ownership, because again, we can own ourselves on so many levels. We can own our sensuality, we can own our intellect, we can own and own our accomplishments. And so it's very it's an all around thing where it's not just like, okay, well, I own my beauty and acknowledge this, or I own my intellect. And again, that's why we want to connect and integrate everything with fierce ownership. Did you guys hear Mason? He's like trying to put his headphones in. And so what gets in the way of fierce ownership is shame. Shame. It's such a deep running, almost an entity in our bodies. Mason, you can go ask for help. Don't smell the earphone. That's gross. He just smelled it. But shame, it's almost like this almost an outside source, but and it does get in the way of fierce ownership of all of our parts of ourselves, of our strengths, of our beauty. Because also, I might squirrel out a little bit, but another thing of fierce ownership is also really owning our values and owning our choices, having ownership of your body and your health. Why is it hard? Because you probably need help, so you should go ask Ricky for help, Mason. Or you can come here really quick and I can help you. You're lucky the dogs aren't in here, my goodness. So again, there's so many facets to fierce ownership, and then the prevention of that is shame. And I would also add that guilt be thrown into that mix, because guilt and shame go hand in hand. Okay, pause for the sweet child of putting the headphones on. Okay, shoo. You guys ever see that movie, Fifth Element? He's like, bzzz. I just love that. So there are two types of shame. There is external shame that we will get from the outside, like being called a slut, or even being told that we're useless. Just sometimes there's just things in passing that somebody might say, and it just really, really sticks. It's like this weird shard that just gets stuck in our bodies. And for example, it's always in high school, right? We're trying to navigate this whole landscape of growing parts that weren't there before, and feeling things and these new urges that we have. And so, by the time I was 12 years old, I was fully developed. I was 5'8", I had boobs, I had a butt. Like, I was a 12-year-old that looked like an 18-year-old. And so just by virtue of how I looked, when I was a freshman, I was also, and just most throughout high school, was very artistic and would draw and have these really nice paintings or poems that were posted all over the walls in high school. And I remember sitting in a class and looking at one of my art pieces, and under my name, somebody had written the word slut underneath it. And I was still a virgin. I wasn't messing around with anybody. I still wanted to wait until I was married. And so, but that started to affect me in a way where I was like, oh my goodness, whoa. And people would spread rumors like, she didn't wear a bra, or she's not wearing underwear today. Like just really weird things, just based on like development. And there is a physiological response that does happen. Our hippocampus, our parts of our brain actually start to like latch onto that. So it does cause a lot of shame. So that's external shame. And then there's also internal shame. And internal shame is more things of like our body image, looking at our body, comparing ourselves to other people, dysmorphia, body dysmorphia, and in holding ourselves up to standards, especially like the beauty ideologies that almost turn into this dogma of like, you don't have straight brown hair and big eyelashes, you're not beautiful, or just like these weird ideologies that are pushed on us. And it's almost like this dogma that we have to follow, otherwise we don't fit in. Well, who wants to? And so there's other really dogmatic and strange ideologies that we might feel internal shame about. Like if we're really religious or spiritual and we have pushed on us these views and ideologies that somehow if you're not giving up everything for your children, like that was one that was pushed on me a lot by a Catholic mother who was saying, your children come first, and if you do not drop everything and drop your life, you're a bad mom. And so I did have a lot of shame coming from that. Linda's shame around being feminine and our masculinity, men having femininity and thinking that they have to be these stoic soldiers that don't have any emotions. And as it turns out, men are really, 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 really sensitive, like so much more sensitive than we would even think. Like my husband is so sensitive, and his feelings get hurt in such a way where I'm like, how do you even like, and I'm like, whoa, why am I being such a bee? And, but I'm also pushing this expectation on him that he's not supposed to have emotions. And then when he does, I'm surprised, I'm shocked. And so again, there's so many ways that there's like these internal ideologies that we follow: religious, mothering, school, spiritual. There's so many things that we just have pushed on us that we start to beat ourselves up. And so I like to say that shame is you're turning against yourself. It's a form of turning against yourself, and it does drive a lot of things to make us do things that we may not always want to. And then guilt is the punishment that you give yourself for all of your shoulds. So we're turning against ourselves with shame, and then there's things that happen to us too, sexual assault, and then the shame around that, because and this might be a little triggering, but a lot of women that I've talked to, when they were having experiences of molestation, actually felt pleasure and didn't understand that their bodies are different. And sometimes that pleasure is actually a release to disassociate from the body so that they're not present and actually dealing with the moment. And so then just the fact that they remember in a moment that they felt shame then and left their bodies, but they also felt pleasure, it creates this whole landscape. And with shame, it does become almost like an emotional addiction, because our brain, it's got these beautiful things called neuroreceptors. And so if we start at a young age feeling shame, feeling guilt, because again, I do believe that shame and guilt go hand in hand, and that they are the magic killers. They kill our imagination, they kill our creativity. It's like this mind killer. And I almost quoted Dune. You guys ever see Dune? Squirrel? Okay. But with this landscape of the neuroreceptors, if we're already starting to feel shame or guilt or just really bad about ourselves, our brain and these neuroreceptors, it's like they pop up like a garden, and there's just like these blooming flowers waiting to be fed the emotion and the chemicals of shame that get flooded into our body. And so we grow and develop more neuroreceptors for feeling shame. So it becomes this really crazy vicious loop, so that when we get older and we're aware, oh my God, I need to release shame. Well, how do I do this? Oh, well, I'm aware of it, and I'm aware that these type of events trigger the shame, so I can stop that and disrupt the pattern. But then what happens is our body actually becomes addicted to those chemicals as well, and it'll start sending signals to the brain, and then the brain starts looking for things to actually feel ashamed about. And so we might like see something on TV, or a thought might pop in our head, and then there's like, you know, the one thing on our shoulder saying, don't do it, don't do it. And then there's the other thing on our shoulder being like, you suck, and oh my God, and do you remember that one time you felt this? And then there's that one going, don't do it. And then it's like, you suck. And you're like, ah. And then you might fall into it, and then those neuroreceptors get fed. So there is a physiological explanation as to why it seems like sometimes we're in this vicious loop. Shame will also freeze us. It'll actually, like when we were talking about boundaries and how we become afraid, and maybe there was an incident in our lives, say it. I love Carl Jung, by the way. Yes, Cecilia. Heck yeah. But if we're feeling a certain way, and we're like, oh my God, I feel so ashamed, and why didn't I speak up for myself? And a lot of times it was because we froze, and that freezing again will just, it locks that emotion into our bodies. And so there's a lot of things that are frozen in time into our bodies. And so I did want to also just cover some ways that we can begin to release shame, so that we can get to that point of our fierce ownership and owning who we are on all levels. Like just for example, I can be in front of like a room of 250 people leading a meditation or a yoga class, or just speaking on something, and be like microphone. And then you get me on Facebook Live and I'm all, ah! Or if you put me in a boardroom with a bunch of executives, like we got to work on that. I'm going to need some training on that stuff. Like I could wing it, but it wouldn't be pretty. So with releasing shame, one of the first steps to do is just like hit the emotions and unpack where that shame is coming from. Being vulnerable. And just a quick story of an example of that is with my son Mason. As you can see, he is different. He looks different. He talks different. And
showing me.
yeah, and since I'm talking about him, he's like, ooh, I gotta be here. And so there was a time that when I found out that he was going to be experiencing some difficulties, he had to have heart surgery when he was born. I absolutely blamed myself for everything that was going on with him. It was all genetic. It was like, what really? Really? No, but it was like I blamed myself. I felt a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, and actually started to punish myself with overeating and experiencing anxiety to try to alleviate some of that guilt and shame. And I was also really ashamed that at certain points of when he was in the hospital, I was so afraid. And there were times where I was like, oh my God, I can't let myself get close to him. What if he dies? And that stuck in my body for years and years. And I'm like, why can't I connect to my son? And they love you, Mason. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I felt a lot of shame as a mother. Like I'm just a failure as a mother, and don't say that. I know, but then we had to talk about it. We actually had to talk about it. Mason, I was in this amazing training, and it was, shown to me and brought to light that I was hiding him and trying to protect him, but it was like overprotecting him. And I was also hiding the fact that like I could be closer to him. And so Mason and I actually had a talk. I got really vulnerable with him, and I told him exactly how I had felt in the past, how ashamed I was, how I wanted to be a better mother to him, and then asked him what he needed from me to be that better mother. And he cried and I cried. And he was just, it was like this relief of like, oh my God, like this wall between us just went and it opened up a lot as a mother, and I was able to bond with him a lot more. And that's just like a quick example of beginning to unpack and release shame is being vulnerable, telling your story without being so attached to it that it becomes your identity or addiction. And and soul excavation, it's, you know, it's this process of diving into our dark little pockets, bringing those parts of ourselves out there that maybe we don't want to look at, because there are desires that we do have that are taboo. And we're always focusing on the positive aspect of things. But if certain things keep on happening in our life, then it's probably because on some level we want it to happen, and that's a taboo desire. And then we shame ourselves and we shame that desire. And that goes like way deep, and that goes into a lot of like the Carl Jung work. But we can emerge as really, really powerful people when we start to unpack, like not unpack and relive everything, but it is unpacking and being vulnerable, because a lot of times that shame is hiding in our bodies. It's hiding in our tissues. And when we can start to speak about it, it starts to dislodge it. And there's a lot more that goes behind it. And then also really quick, on a physical level, there's a lot of physiological side effects to feeling constant shame and guilt. Because if we feel a lot of shame about things and we're shoulding ourselves, like I had a teacher, community connection and sharing. And sharing. And I had a teacher in 8th grade, and she always said, don't should on other people. But she would say it really fast. So she was saying, don't should on other people. And then she would have us yelling as a class, don't should on me. And it's like, don't should. All these shoulds are creating shame. They're creating guilt, and they're creating actions that don't align with us. I know a lot of people who feel that they should be working a certain way and then end up burning themselves out. Like I was one of those people that wanted to save the world. And through trying to save the world and feeling like I needed to heal everybody, I didn't look at myself. And hi, Desiree.
And you looked at me.
Yeah, and I looked at Mason. And so I ended up burning the candle at both ends. I never rested. I was always saying yes to everybody. And then what happened was this lovely thing called adrenal burnout. And this is something that is very real and is a physiological response to shame and guilt, which then cascades and prevents us. He's loving the hearts. It prevents us from reaching that point of fierce ownership and owning our bodies, owning our sensuality, owning who we are, owning our femininity, owning our masculinity, just our values, and being able to stand behind our values and not back down, being fearless. And so some of these physiological effects are, besides the adrenal burnout, yeah, send those kisses, kiddo, is feeling like depression, weight gain. That's actually because of the fact that we're pushing ourselves beyond what our capabilities, beyond our capacity, beyond what our bodies can do sometimes. We'll experience depression and apathy, and not caring about anything, not caring about our family, our friends, just feeling really apathetic and going, go use the bathroom. I can smell it. He's going to always let you know.
I don't ruin your video.
You didn't ruin my video. They can't smell you. I can though. But what happens with that adrenal burnout is losing interest in the things that once excited you. And especially if you're a spiritual person, if you're somebody who considers yourself a seeker that wants to see behind the curtain, and then you're like, oh my God, where's my passion? I'm so tired. That could be a result of adrenal burnout, which is something that's cascaded from having an emotional landscape that feeds off of shame. And we get thyroid dysfunction. We get an inability to feel rested. So it's like if you're ever having, you get 8 to 10 hours of sleep and you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired and I need coffee. That is definitely a symptom of adrenal burnout. And I would say that it's something that is like not brought up a lot in our society, in our community, and it's not really looked at by doctors, but it is something that is very real. And so a lot of times people with adrenal burnout will be tired.
And it's something that creates like shame and anger and stuff.
Yeah, he catches on quick. But what happens with that is you have this landscape and you wake up, you're tired, and then that creates anxiety because you're immediately going to be like, oh my God, I don't have energy for the day. Holy crap. And then that's where we get this like coffee addiction. And then guess what? OCD, that's another thing. That's the cascade off of shame in our bodies is OCD. Especially people with adrenal burnout, you'll end up feeling like, you know, maybe there's like hyper interest in sex or loud music or drama or creating crisis. A lot of times we'll actually create a crisis in our life just to get our adrenals to start functioning, or listen to loud music, or go into gossip or drama, or all these really just weird things. And I know it kind of like seems like, oh my God, all this from shame, all this from guilt. Yes, because it's, you know, as above, so below. It's as within, so without. Our bodies are so connected. Our bodies have such a capability, and our messengers that let us know, you're losing power, girl. You are hemorrhaging. And we lose power by living in the past. And so again, that shame basically is living in the past. Should, oh my God, I'm shoulding on myself. So what happens is also, especially if we're irritable, need coffee to function with this adrenal burnout, which I also call it a shame burnout. It really, they all lead to each other, is, we end up being in this like low grade state of anxiety, a constant low grade state of anger, and a constant low grade state of resentment. And especially when we're like beginning our practices and spiritual practices in our religious practices, and then we feel like we should be feeling a certain way, and then we don't, and then we punish ourselves and we feel guilty. So hopefully you guys can see, hopefully you're picking up what I'm putting down and connecting the dots here of it. It's all connected. And so if we remain in a state of anger and resentment, it's only because unconsciously we're trying to stimulate adrenal function. So I just wanted to hit that on that level, as far as, and this is a really interesting thing too, because when our adrenals are weak, we start to get a buildup of copper in our system. And then that creates a state of toxicity. And this is a really interesting thing about copper. If we have too much copper in our system, in our bloodstream, copper enhances emotions. So just like certain things. So just like certain things are amplifiers, you know, like let's say there's Mason, boundaries. Remember? Thank you. But copper just basically amplifies emotions. So we end up being hyper emotional, like, what's wrong with me? I don't understand. So there really are explanations, and you're not going crazy, I promise. And this is interesting too, is elevated aluminum, because what happens is we'll have copper elevated, we start to lose minerals in our body, and then we have elevated aluminum in our system, and fluoride, and I'm not going to get into the fluoride stare, but aluminum enhances apathy and just like a sense of there's no point. And it also does enhance I would say depression. So we have elevated copper, which enhances emotions. So if you're experiencing anger, it's going to be enhanced times like a fajillion. If you're sad, it's going to be even more. And then you've got aluminum, where it's like, I'm feeling angry and sad and resentful, and there's no point. And so we can see that that there's this loop that happens in our bodies. And how do you get adrenal burnout from it can be like a high stress situation. It can be over time. It can be a traumatic event that just happened once, but it happened a long time ago. And then again, our neuroreceptors create this landscape to be able to be fed what it is we're fearing, what it is that we're ashamed of. So it does create this crazy loop. And again, I want to offer solutions. And so a quick solution, again, is, to be vulnerable, to start unpacking those emotions and pulling out the shards. And then also, you got to take fierce ownership of your health. You definitely need to almost get a righteous sense of anger. to take charge of your life and go and know that you can feel better and you can get better and that you're not crazy, and it's okay to be feeling what you're feeling right now, that there's nothing wrong with you, and taking the shoulds, like say it with me, don't should on me, right? Exactly. Daily practices and rituals to support the wellness. And we can, you know, and to make sure also that you're not intellectually healing yourself, because we can intellectually heal and think we understand something, but if it's not in your body, if it's not embodied in you, then it's just going to come out sideways, in a really messed up way. I was going to say the F-bomb because that's my favorite word. So some things that you can do to just take charge of like that adrenal function is to add iodine to your diet, to take Hawaiian spirulina and barley grass powder, adding supplements that are whole food based, and just starting there and just starting to look at the way that you're eating. Because if, you know, you're getting up and having coffee and a donut and then not eating the rest of the day and then having a big dinner and it's pizza and some alcohol, that is going to make it really hard for you to feel better. So hopefully I've connected some of the dots for you guys. And again, if you feel like what we're doing here is useful and you feel like other people need to see and experience these lessons that we have to offer, you know, please donate. Please get involved any way that you can. You know, we love connections. We love collaboration. We love little children. And again, check out the website so that you can get more information on who we are, what we do, and just and get a feel for again, just our essence. He's trying to do the little bitey thing on my head. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, snide remarks, send them our way. Any one of our team are happy to answer your questions. If you want to know more, you need more details. Again, we are here to share our love. So thank you again. Have an amazing Tuesday night, and besos. That was just the tip. Solo la punta.
No, lo pano.